Welcome to week 5, Management 4071, my online section. How are you doing? I hope everybody's doing really good. All right, so week 5, you're going to be learning about groups and communication. Also, some conflict management is going to be thrown in there also, and conflict management is actually kind of necessary in organizations and teams because it provides a catalyst for ideas to be bounced around, for feedback to be given. And for some reason, the human mind seems to kind of thrive on this back and forth, this having to substantiate yourself in a form of a conflict to defend your position. Now, it has to be done in a productive way. It has to be, it cannot be destructive because whenever you have conflict that's destructive, you're not going to have anything really positive coming out of it. But if you as a leader can learn to guide your team through conflict in a productive, constructive way, you can actually help them to become more creative and to find innovations. So you're going to be learning about that. Now, communication is essential because without good communication, our conflicts tend to get very destructive. Even with good communication skills, conflicts can get out of hand if we don't kind of keep an eye on it. Now, communication involves a minimum of two individuals. You have person A or interlocutor A and interlocutor B. Now, A packs up the message and sends it. B receives that message and decodes it and tries to determine what the intention and meaning of the message from interlocutor A actually is. Once they feel they've got that, they provide feedback to the first original individual, the first person, and you say, "This is what I think you're saying." And at that point, interlocutor A can say, "Yes, that's it, correct, you got it," or "No, not exactly." Now that person has got to repackage what they're trying to say, send it again, and await the feedback. Now, true and effective communication sounds almost like it's very formal. And in some ways it is, but there's a flow to it. One person provides information and talks, and then they stop. The other person processes it and then provides feedback and stops, waits for either confirmation that they've got it or maybe they need to have clarification. Good communication requires that we act civilized and mature. We need to act in a way that the other person feels that they are welcome to truly express themselves. And once again, you've got destructive forms of communication and constructive forms of communication. As a leader, you want to really get your team to the point where they're constructive in it. You want your team to feel like no idea is a dumb idea. All ideas are welcome to be put onto the table. But hey, if I do give a dumb idea, my idea will probably won't be taken, but it might stimulate somebody's mind to think creatively and perhaps find that piece of innovation that we need. So, welcome all ideas, perspectives. You want to welcome all the perspectives that you can because at no given point in time are you able to account for every variable and factor affecting, impacting, and uh, pressing down on that moment of time. So every decision is influenced by a myriad of variables and factors. I myself can find a few of them. I cannot find all of them. If I had a team of 100 people, we could find a whole lot more, but we still can't find them all. So what do? We try to get as many perspectives on something that we can. We make the best decision that we can, knowing that we may have missed a few things and down the road, there'll be another set of variables and factors affecting that moment, and it may alter how things turn out. And so once we do make a decision, we've got to continually evaluate it because it might need tweaking, or we might have to return to the drawing board, so to say, and rework it. Um, so types of communications that occur in organizations. Well, we have verbal, which we just talked about. You got nonverbal. So many parts of our communicative nature don't involve words. They are nonverbal. Their facial expressions, their hand motions, their postures of your body, they're how you stand, the inflections of your voice. And that is important that we learn to observe them. And lastly, on communication, many people think communicating is I convey ideas to somebody. That's half correct. The other half is we have to actively listen. If we're not going to actively listen to the other person, then we're not truly communicating. I've been in relationships where, yes, I've been guilty of this. When my partner was trying to say something, I was formulating my rebuttal, my response, my attack instead of paying attention. I wasn't giving my partner the benefit of being able to fully communicate. So actively listening is imperative, especially as a leader. Make sure you practice the skills of actively listening. What does that mean? That as somebody is talking, I am going through what they're saying. I'm processing it. That's a too many S's there, processing it. And I'm trying to find the intention and I provide feedback in a way that doesn't act like I know everything, but hey, this is what I'm getting. Is this what you're intending to say? And we got to remember, we got to check our pride, our ego, our hubris, our temper at the door, because those are things that will destroy good, positive, constructive criticism. Um, Other forms of communication. You may text people on your team. You may email them. There may be some form of an intranet at the organization, and you use a social media app that the company uses internally. You may have to do presentations at meetings. You may have to sit through presentations at meetings. You may have people come up to you and on the spot want to talk about something. And as a leader, we've got to know, okay, I have time for this. I can give them my time. I can actively listen. Or wait a minute, I really don't have time right now, but this is important. Can we schedule a time later this afternoon and we can meet and I can give you my undivided attention? So those are the main types of communication. Of course, there's written. There's we kind of mentioned that through emails and text messages, but signage. You can put signs up in your department, and that is a form of communication. Of course, we do have video, but that is just spoken and nonverbal communication that's saved into a format that people can watch en masse. Um, I am posting the slides that I use when I lecture in person this week. If you have any questions about the content this week or about the assignments, which this week you have two assignments. You got one on applications, and then of course you got to work on your research paper. You need to start compiling together your resources. And just a quick thing on resources. There are, I hope that you've watched the APA 7 video I posted at the beginning of the class. If not, you really need to. Otherwise, you're going to be getting a lot of feedback from me, and it's going to be very apparent to me if you haven't watched it. Sources, there's quality, levels of quality. An academic journal article or an academic textbook, anything that's peer reviewed, conference papers, things like that, those are like good. Those are number one. Then next down on the list, you're going to find like other sources out there. Could be data sets. They're very good. And I put them as number two just because I need to put them into a different category. But data sets, depending on where they're from, if they're from a reputable organization like a university, a college, or a governmental agency, or a watchdog group, or the GSS, which is the Global Social Survey, they're excellent. Those are good. They're quality. Now, Pew Research, they do not provide quality research. Most of their studies end up having a bias in them. They skew their results. So, as a researcher, I avoid Pew Research. You can use websites from universities that present information, factual information that is a quality source. What are not quality sources are organizations' websites. So you have this company that you're using in your paper. You want to use their website, great, but that might be a secondary or a tertiary, meaning third down on the list, source. You will need primary sources to be able to substantiate their claims. So a secondary or tertiary source, they're good, but you use them to back up the primary data, the primary information. Why is that? Because as an organization, I can put anything I want to in my website. So not everything on there is going to be free of bias. So you got to watch out for the bias in the organization's websites. Um, Now, if they're giving a form like their annual 10K document, that you can count as a primary source because that has been checked by multiple people. Basically, essentially, on the professional side, it's a type of peer review. So you can include their annual forms and stuff like that. And a lot of organizations will provide them on their website. If not, you can go to Edgar, EDGAR, I think that's how it's spelled, and that's with the SEC. And you can do a search through the organizations there and look for their annual filings. And those would be primary sources. The news, I can report in my paper, I can say, the news said this. The New York Times said this. I cannot say that what the New York Times said was true because a lot of news sources are very biased. And in academia, we want to avoid bias. So we may need to talk about what this news source has said, but we say this is what they're claiming, not what you're claiming is true. Okay. And then lastly, what would I put on there? Websites in general, Google searches, stuff like that, depending on what it is, if there's a way for it to be biased, it's not going to be really super credible, but you can use it to support other information. Like for instance, in my dissertation, I used a few websites to provide data that I then also corroborated with primary sources. So just kind of think like that when you're working through your sources and you're getting all your information together for your research paper. Think about the credibility and watch that video that I posted in week 1 on APA 7. I cover some academic writing in there, like how to use the meal plan, things like that, things I look for when I grade. So if you want to get a kind of ahead of the curve, so to say, on your paper and be able to write it in a way that I'm going to grade nicely, or not, that's a bad way to put it, but if you want to know how I grade, watch that video because these are things I look for. Okay. If you have any questions this week, feel free to contact me and you have an awesome week 5.